Hello and welcome to the special feature on Waves Film Bazaar with Creative First. Our guests today are critically acclaimed filmmakers Hash Tanmoy and Paromita Dar. Hash and Paromita, welcome to this discussion.
Hi,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi.
What sparked your interest in filmmaking?
I think since a very young age, storytelling is definitely a place I would go to in terms of expressiveness or just way of relating to the world. And what really changed for me is theater. I joined a theater group in my college days, and we used to write all our plays. We never adapted any of the plays, and that kind of became a practice of kind of imagining things from scratch. And I think theater led me to cinema. That was the next step. So I owe everything to theater.
Hash?
For me, specifically, it's so there was like a proper scene we had in Calcutta. Like every Friday, there is a Goethe Institute screening. Every festival, there were so many cine club societies and all of that. And I started getting access to all of that very early age. And also, to be honest, we had like these small communities of not artists, I would say, but practitioners who are like just coming together and discuss something. And I literally had to hoover around to come back to cinema. So for me, it's not just like, first strike that kind of happened, but like definitely like I always came back to cinema, and that's where I kind of probably stayed back. Yeah.
Paromita, how did Behind the Tin Sheets shape your documentary approach?
Oh, it shaped lot of approaches, life approach. Actually, it was one of the first projects post film school. And we were three friends, very close friends. We discovered cinema, Yashu, me, and Ekta. We discovered cinema together. We were in the theater group together. So it was and we all went away to study film and we came back. And once we came back, our city had changed a lot. I'm from Bangalore. So Bangalore had gone through this massive tech boom, and it was changing, and Bangalore became a permanent construction site. So it was really a grief of losing a city, but then that transition became our interaction with like constructions happening. Who's building this new city, new Bangalore that is coming? And that changed everything. That kind of made our grief into making peace with what's happening with your surrounding, with your home, and not be so angry about it. So I think it was larger than just cinema, but in terms of documentary approach, I think it was a really a long journey. It's a decade of filmmaking, which resulted in many films, not just one. So I think it was also what I take back from it is really the not being in a hurry, and research being really why you're making something, where it's coming from. Give it time to understand everything about the community, or even if it's about yourself. So I think not being impatient, and documentary kind of gives you that kind of training of like you have to keep questioning yourself, going over the over time. So I think I apply that in screenplay writing as well, where there's a lot of patience and like a lot of rewriting, a lot of going back to the field and then coming back to the page. So yeah.
Paramita, there's so much of depth in the theme of Behind the Tin Sheets. You can actually, have sequels to that. I would urge you to do one on Mumbai, where I'm in right now. The whole
Yeah,
city,
Mumbai.
construction city. There's so much of depth in that theme. And I'm sure, it's getting screened all over the place. And what is the general takeaway that people have?
Actually,
I mean, has it influenced some kind of policies in the government,
I
etc.?
mean, the thing is, one of the filmmaker, Ekta, she's also an activist, and
Right.
she runs a non-profit. So their work goes beyond just like the film world. So yes, there has been a lot of labor interaction in terms of this is specific to kind of Bangalore and Karnataka, not in a national level.
Yes.
But what I wanted to get back to is the fact that I have written a fiction script based on those decade of work with the construction workers, which Hash is producing, and that's another project that we are doing together. It's called Last Time on Earth, and we have a French producer on board. We have some French money in place. So now that entire world, I have written it down in a fictional version of it, which is exciting as well. It's another project that we are very, very excited about.
Has what draws you most to hybrid and experimental forms of cinema?
Well, that's an interesting question. To be honest, like one thing I was never pressurized with, that there was no footprints of my ancestors or in the family who were like closer to this, narrative, non-narrative, or whatever structure of cinema. So it's for me like just the to kind of figure out the first scripture of what does it cinema actually kind of do, and like where does it come from and everything. So I did not come here like with a lot of added pressure. So I think it's from the beginning I had the clarity and interest and curiosity just to kind of experiment with multiple things. It's not just because I have also like a curatorial background and also moving images background, and then also narrative fiction and experiential design, audience design. So all of this kind of now kind of became terminologies, but like it was all kind of for me to kind of play with at the beginning. So I think unfortunately we don't have a very strong infrastructural focused culture where you can experience all this, but there is a lot of interesting experimentation research. What Parmita also mentioned about the research, and to kind of it's kind of a meditative process to kind of stay with the media, stay with the subject, stay with the entire format that we are trying to create. So it's altogether like a not only a medium, but it's a set of ecosystem that kind of really created a all informed kind of in a situation for me, so that it took me to various verticals how to kind of design the entire focus based narrative or anything as such, but it really shaped my career overall on a structural basis. Yeah.
How has working and living abroad influenced the ways both of you represent South Asian stories?
Ash, you want to go first?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I can go. So it's kind of like a very interesting exposure. Like you can have this kind of interesting palette, because where we live, it's not only like the because it might come a lot in my conversations because I'm very curious, interested in the infrastructure building, in talent development, and all of this. So I have seen like the structural differences, and like how like you kind of create like a balance between everything, like where there is a space for everybody. So I have seen like, and it kind of influenced me a lot to kind of create a replication. So for an example, like it's a model that you see somewhere, and then you kind of also try to kind of adapt it in your community or in your locality, or kind of, so that influenced me like a lot, whether that's like the North Americas or Europe or everywhere else. So I would say that was always there, but also I think the disciplines of of a work of an artistic life, of also like the management, because it's not only just one person's job. So that also kind of I think shaped a lot of discipline and structure in me. So yeah.
I think how would it influence? I mean, it has influenced. I think what primarily world cinema has been a huge influence while making documentaries or fiction, and I would kind of talk about both the forms. I think one informs the other, and there's really nowadays there's the lines are blurring. What's documentary? What's fiction? And I love that there's no the categories are not so stark anymore. So I think in terms of living abroad, like Hash said, like how I think there is a certain structure in place there in terms of community and helping artists' voices, and how one can be completely free in the way they are expressing themselves. So I think those are things that one wishes for and has borrowed. I think I always knew that in terms of storytelling, that my stories are here, and hence I always come back to India. and it's where home is. But in terms of also the idea of, I think, migration and labor for me came on very early because I went abroad to study, and then one really kind of starts to understand it in a larger scale. And that has really labor and migration really has been my lifelong work's preoccupation, and all the narrative fiction that is being written also is under that umbrella. And I think that started way ahead in my journey when I started my film school. Being an immigrant yourself, all of those things have finally influenced what you do. Yeah, I think every kind of exposure is great, and it's nice to bring that systemic
Definitely.
understanding verticals that Hash spoke about back here.
Hash, how do you define a future facing cinema ecosystem?
Well, every ecosystem is kind of very different. So, for an example, what I mean by future-facing ecosystem is how the cinema is changing today. For an example, how IFI is also designing certain panels on AI and immersive cinema. So, what is I think very crucially important? It's not only the conversation, but also to kind of give the communities the adaptability with the medium, because how the vertical content and everything has been kind of changed, and it's kind of totally in our, because there is like not a particular way that we experience, if we can call like cinema or any form of entertainment, any form of content. So it is so important that as a community, as an industry, as a policy making, as everybody altogether, we not only kind of talk about it, but also to kind of practically well inform and keep on upgraded the talents we have in the industry, because we have immense amount of talent in India. I think that ecosystem is very important to build. That like it's not in conversations, but also like definitely in practicals. So just a small example I want to add on, which is like you also have to show how immersive cinema has been kind of experienced, how you can create a public space like that. So all these things can be really well informed that what is the future looking, future facing cinema. And this mediums and this kind of topics are very cross sectional. It's like very complementary to each other. So I think like we are in a time right now so that we have to kind of really inform each other in that way, and constantly also kind of focus on the upgradation of talent. So that's where I really want to kind of create the ecosystem of future central focus cinema. Yeah.
Paramita, what did Birha and that cloud never left teach you about visual language?
I think shooting those two films, which was also a very long journey, because it was a very long researched projects. Um, I I think it was a transition where we were taking the conceptually going with documentary and blending into fiction in a much larger sense, where we took those liberties to go into the unknown in terms of visually also not have it like very we used a lot of tools that fiction gives you and applied it into documentaries. So I think that way it was highly stylized and highly planned, which which happened from behind the tin sheets to then behind that cloud never left. That was the evolution that we took, where we did stylize it a lot. We did plan. It was almost like a script where some sequences and some parts of the film were where we brought in actors as well. So yeah. I think it's like little baby steps that you have taken to now then go full blown fiction.
How do you both view Waves Film Bazaar's role in supporting independent filmmakers?
I think, honestly, it's very critical, very important. This is, I think, one of the few ones where, like, really people from all over the world and all over the country kind of we meet once in a year. And I think if your project is there or it's not there, it's just an important place to be. Because while film is such a collaborative, such a large industry, it can also be very isolating. And there are a lot of struggles. And in this process to get your film made or produce the film, there are many umbrellas, right, of this. So I think it's a great place to come and meet your tribe and your comrades, where you just like are like, oh yeah, this is the problem I faced, oh wow, okay, and warn each other, help each other, share information, share knowledge, share your steps of how you got your film made. I think these things are very, very important. And I think because it's a meeting point, I think Film Bazaar can is that space.
Ash?
Um, yeah, like just wanna take what Parmita just said. It's almost like an isolated world, like when you are, I mean, it's probably in the writing stage, in the conceptual stage, because it is a community process to kind of make it. It's really kind of takes a village to kind of make a film. But this is a space where you can kind of find your peer group, and you started feeling like this is not alone. Also, I would say like this is a great place to kind of learn a lot of systematic learning, also for producers, for distributors, for editors, for, I mean, to kind of not only connect, but to kind of, it's a great learning space because so many countries are coming together. You would get to understand and learn and like what actually like how this country's cinema functions, and like what are the opportunities we can do. Like there are a lot of cross collaborations can happen which you can't imagine like within your bubble. So this is also like a great space. Like so every year, kind of coming back to this, it's almost like an awakening thing for every filmmaker, every artist kind of working in the industry. So yeah.
What are both of you looking forward to most at Waves Film Bazaar this year?
Um,
Well, I think it's kind of like this year we are kind of super packed for sure because our production, like our film is in like co-production market, which is like a great joy for us. It's also like a coming back for us because well, our journey began with TIFF industry this year in September, and like start, this is a homecoming for us. So, and we are definitely, we already have for this project, we already have a French and Canada co-production in place, and we are very much looking forward to also meet additional co-producers and also like several talents along the market, and like meet as many as people as possible. So yeah.
Paramita, if you could add to what Hash just said, how did you really go about it? People don't know how to really make it to the co-production market. You have a film. How do you really go about it?
I think it's just like have it in the map, like of your applications. There are so many. I mean, you have to know that this happens every November. The application opens out at X, Y, and Z. And if you have a like a film or a new script that you've written, and you have a producer on board, an Indian producer, then I think just apply, and it's a great exposure to start talking about your film. Because also with Ulta, Toronto was the first place, and it's a fresh script because I wrote this in the beginning of this year. So Toronto was the first place, and then now we've come to the bazaar. I think it's just prepares you more and more once you start talking about your film and the idea is put out in the world. It's also good to start getting feedback and how people are receiving it. So how do you go about it? You have to apply, and if you
How
get it,
competitive is it for your application to be selected? Pretty
uh,
competitive,
that
right?
I would imagine I wouldn't be the right person to answer that.
Because,
You have to.
I think a lot of viewers out there would also want to apply, but, maybe they don't have the enough preparation. Like in your case, both of y'all are highly experienced. You'll have done film work. You'll have a body of work. Also, with Ulta, you've already had an exposure to Toronto.
Yeah, but I would really think it's a independent cinema. I think is yeah, sometimes I think you have to be very thick-skinned because there's a lot of rejection, and it's not like just because we have been selected on CPM, we have been rejected in other places. So it's a constant. One thing you get, 10 things you don't get, and there's so many grants, there's so much funding. If you keep, but you have to be at it. Out of the 10 you'll get selected in one. So I think if you have to have a stamina for people saying no to you, otherwise you'll crash.
Also, just wanna just add one thing to that. I think one thing one needs to know is the clarity about the project, and the
Right.
honesty should show very, like it has to be transparent. Like whatever you are putting out there, it has to be transparent. You should have your clarity, and of course, like before even application, I think like you should feel yourself, at least tell yourself that I'm ready. Of course, like you can kind of try and like how many times you want, but for a larger application, one should themselves feel okay, I'm ready to kind of put it out there. So yeah, it's like a process, like as she mentioned. Well, thank you.
And also writing these applications helps you gain clarity. Like
Right.
when you do write a treatment, when you do write a synopsis, when you have to write a script you have written of 100 pages and make it into 1 page synopsis, it's
Right.
very tough. But it gives you the clarity of what your film is really about. So I think it's a good way to also look at this as a practice.
Both of you all have been part of international festivals. Can you share your individual experiences and the importance of such exposure?
Uh, to be honest, like for an example, the recent with Ulta, like we went to TIFF, and it was like a huge kind of a sounding board for us to kind of meet people and industry experts from all over the world. That kind of experience, it's impossible to get when you are sitting and writing. So that is like a huge takeaway for all of us to kind of not only just to kind of take the project further, but to kind of build a lot of network connections, like where to go further. So it's almost kind of a mind a map making for your project, but also for your career from here. So yeah.
Paromita?
I would okay. So Berlinale Talents or was quite a interesting space because I think it was amazing because you get to meet so many co-creators, co-filmmakers from around the world, and look, Hash and I met there. So look at if anything can happen. You could be collaborating with a music composer from Ukraine. You could be so there was a lot of working with a cinematographer from Argentina. So those kind of spaces are really because you're in your little space doing your little film, and then you go and you realize that actually cinema crosses borders. There's no language. It doesn't matter. It's all it's such an empathy machine, and we're all trying to do kind of tell these stories to create that environment. So I think Balnani Talents was definitely an highlight of how you can you how much we need each other, and it's a great space to connect. And any kind of big or small film festivals does that to be able to meet your tribe, which is filmmakers, producers, yeah, and get inspired as well by their work, by each other's work.
Thank you both for sharing your insights, and we wish you all the best for your project Ulta at Waves Film Bazaar today. And we hope to speak with
Thank
you on
you.
your experience later.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.